I'm here to talk about medical aid in dying. First, I want to be clear about my terms. Medical aid in dying really refers to euthanasia and assisted suicide. Euthanasia is when a doctor administers a lethal injection to a patient. Assisted suicide is when a doctor gives the means to die to the patient, him or herself. As of March 17, 2022, euthanasia and assisted suicide have been expanded. Before, they only included relief from a painful death. Now, they also include relief from a painful life. And therefore, they now impact those that I represented in my entire career, the disabled persons. I'm Kevin Marshall. I've represented personal injury clients, including disabled persons, for over 22 years. I'd like to preface my comments by saying that if you're struggling with pain, chronic pain or illness, know the one or two things that have never changed. First, you have inherent value because you're made in the image of God. And second, perhaps you have friends and family that truly care for you, that see a hope and a future for you beyond the dark clouds that you may feel at this present moment. Isn't that of great value? If you're a caregiver, if you're a friend or family member of a disabled person, the challenges you face are very great. But thank you for your efforts. These efforts, these expressions of love, will be rewarded in this life or the next, or both. My message today is for all of us. My question is this: now that euthanasia and assisted suicide has been expanded, are we to embrace it or to shun it? And this raises the age-old question: how are we to regard disabled persons? Do they truly have the same inherent value as everyone else? You have to decide. But when you do that, don't neglect the underlying set of beliefs, values, and assumptions that must guide your decision-making process. And in helping you decide, I'll offer you two stories. The author of the first story recounted seeing a bleeding homeless man in the streets of San Francisco where she lived. An ambulance and some paramedics were summoned. They arrived, as did a homeless advocate. The paramedics treated the bleeding man, at which time the homeless advocate advised them that he had the right to refuse hospitalization. The man agreed. The treatment was ended. The paramedics, the ambulance, and the homeless advocate left. The man was once again left by the side of the road alone and bleeding. Several months later, he was found alone again, no longer bleeding, but he was dead. Around the same time, a very different story was taking place in Ukraine. A bleeding Russian soldier was found by the side of the street by a villager. This villager's village had been badly ravished by Russian artillery strikes. It brought much pain and destruction. There was no ambulances, there was no paramedics to summon. The villager thought of all the pain and the misery he had been going through as he looked at this man. But he set aside those thoughts. He treated the man as best he could. He put him gently in his car. He drove home, dodging Russian snipers along the way. Arriving at home, he changed his clothes. He put him in local attire, removed his soldier's uniform, and he picked up some of the very few remaining possessions he had left in his badly damaged home. He went back in his car, drove to the only remaining doctor in town, took the man out of his car, placed him in front of the doctor, and said, "Doctor, please do your best to treat this man. I offer you my wife's jewelry." His wife had just died. "Next week, I promise you I will give you more. Please take good care of this man." And as we consider these two stories, it brings us back to the question I raised earlier: how do we regard disabled persons? Other than pretend they don't exist, we really have two choices. Like the homeless advocate, we can be an ally to disabled persons. Or, like the Ukrainian villager, we can be a friend to a wounded man. We can strive either to empower the marginalized, or we can identify a need and take decisive action to help, even at great personal expense. And in so doing, we can address these weighty issues, including the life and death of the most vulnerable, which means it brings us back to euthanasia and assisted suicide. If you are disabled, you must grapple with each of these issues, But you're also burdened or empowered by the knowledge you have to make a decision that pertains to only yourself as regards euthanasia or assisted suicide. Be sure to put your instructions in writing, communicate your instructions, put it in a power of attorney for health care. And whoever you are, when you make these decisions, do so with care, compassion, and wisdom. If you missed anything of what I said today, you can check my website, www.kmlawyer.ca. Check the Insights page, it's all there, including the references for my stories and for medical assistance in dying. Feel free to give me a call, 416-383-0550. Send me an email to kevin.marshall@kmlawyer.ca. Thank you.